stop bringing this.
All right, here we go. We're in person. It's February 26th. It is Wednesday. Kyle and I are in the same office. It's my office, and we don't know what to do with ourselves, I think. So we're going to talk about some news and see what else we talk about. Well, we're good with this.
I'm good with it. This is great. Like, first of all, the vibe when you see the entirety of Paul's office is really cool. So this is the entirety of Paul's office if you're watching live. But also, I mean, obviously, whenever we get to be in person, hanging out, chatting,
Got to do more of this. We have plans to do a lot more of this in the coming year. And I think this is just, we need a few things from some people out there. Number one, our friends at Allegiant, we need you to have more direct Nashville flights from Nashville to Syracuse.
Please make that happen.
This Tuesday, Friday, Sunday garbage is not going to cut it. I mean, we appreciate that there's one, but listen, those flights are always packed.
Right.
So I am going to say, who else flies a lot to Nashville? Delta's big in Nashville. American?
Delta could, or American. Yeah, American comes up here.
Delta, American, there's a little bit of white space.
Help us out.
You probably don't have enough data in your airline to understand that there are more people that want to get from Syracuse.
There's a lot of people that I know it's shocking. I've talked to a lot of people. There's us through Syracuse. Yeah, there's like our whole company.
Yeah.
So
we would do it more often. But Kyle made it. You spent a little time with some dealers yesterday.
Yeah.
A little trip to DC. Like you kind of made around the bat. Like,
made it around DC. I mean, it is funny. Like in DC, there's this 5 families thing.
Yeah.
So if it's like Sheehy, Orisman, you got Mile One is in there. Whatever. There's like 5 families that kind of like run the area. And both of the groups that I was at yesterday chatting with them, it's very apparent that everyone kind of has their eye out on that, like what those are doing. You don't find that many times in big cities. You've got like Minneapolis where it's Walser and Luther kind of run the show, and not Walser, Luther, and what's the third one?
Maurice,
yeah. Right? But not many cities have these, like they run the show. But the other thing that I find interesting about like being in a massive city like that is there is so much diversity in the opportunity, right?
It's true.
For dealerships and dealer groups. And then I was with Joel Bassam yesterday, Eastern's Automotive Group. He's been at a Soducon, and the funniest thing I heard all yesterday was he goes, "Yo, we got all these big dealer groups, all these big dealerships, and NADA is located here. The price of getting home from NADA show on Sunday is obscene." He's like, "You got to book your tickets early."
Oh, yeah.
There's no getting
it's
first
all
class.
Car people.
It's all car people.
You're not getting upgraded. There's somebody with more miles. It's funny you mentioned. Have you ever heard Eastern's, like
the jingle?
Yeah.
It's a whole
Eastern
thing.
Motors.
Yep.
So apparently that song made it into like an NBA video game expansion pack.
Really?
Yeah. So the Eastern Motors jingle is in, I think it's NBA 2, like
Look,
2K,
if you don't
whatever
think
it is.
dealerships and auto are a part of culture, like you've missed it.
And by the way, if you're watching, and you're probably not, but you never asked EA Sports or whoever you are, you never asked to use the jingle,
right?
They didn't even ask. I know, but I mean, no one's ever going to give
nobody's going
to
put
it in the game.
Yeah, go ahead.
Listen, we're going to be back down in that area in just under 3 months as a company.
Right.
We're going to be in Hanover, Maryland for a Soducon 2025, May 13th through 15th. Do I get the dates right? I got them right.
13th
through 15th.
16th.
Full day of program. Just look at the website, asoducon.com. Tickets are live. They're going. The hotel rooms in that venue, we pretty much sell out the entire hotel every year. It will sell out much faster this year. So if you want to be in the event hotel, we have other hotels. But if you want to be in the event hotel, you better get your tickets in your hotel rooms like stat.
Yeah.
Because they're going to scoop up, and then we're going to see we told you so, and then you're going to call us, and you're going to text us.
And
you'll be like, I know Paul and Kyle.
And,
hey, can you help me out? And we're going to be like, unfortunately, no, because you don't want to sleep in the sleeper sofa with all the kids I have in my room.
You definitely don't want to do that. It would be wild.
All right, let's talk about some news because we got work to do today. You're here in town. We're going to make the best use of it. And they're about to start a demo saw outside my window because they're building a Starbucks, which we're really excited about. Kyle's not as excited, but he did have. Did have He said something about Starbucks coffee this morning that I've never heard him say.
I had some fairly decent coffee at a Starbucks yesterday. They had like a single
Still
origin
hedging.
Ethiopia, and it was pretty good. Like I was kind of impressed. So kudos to Starbucks for trying something a little bit new.
Yeah. So I was making Kyle a French press and explaining how with all the coffee drinkers in my house, I can no longer afford
nice
like
stuff.
super nice stuff. So I found the Ruta Maya coffee at Costco, in my opinion, is the freshest, best roasted bean that Costco sells.
That's fair.
Just gonna put that out there.
Okay.
So take that, Rizzler.
It wasn't bad.
Rizzler.
Yeah.
You know who
It was
the Rizzler
better than the
is?
Starbucks I had yesterday.
You know who the Rizzler is?
Yeah.
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 Costco guys.
That's it.
Yeah, I wonder what they say about that, if anything. I think we've gone far enough. Group 1 Automotive made waves in 2024, dropping $1.3 billion to acquire 68 dealerships across the US and the UK. This move adding $3.9 billion in annual revenue and solidifying their aggressive expansive strategy. The acquisitions span 6 major deals from Southern California, not to New York, all the way to London.
Wow.
Major brands acquired include Lexus, Honda, Mercedes, BMW, Toyota, Porsche, Land Rover, and Audi. A key purchase was the $517 million acquisition of Inchcape's 54 UK stores, adding $2.7 billion in revenue. The company also sold off select US dealerships, including a Buick-GMC store in Massachusetts and a Subaru dealership in New York. I don't wonder which one that was. CEO Daryl Kenningham said, quote, "Our ability to acquire outstanding brands in desirable markets is because we perform well on all the OEM eligibility metrics."
Look, we've been talking about this the last couple of weeks, ever since the Herb Chambers news came across the wire. You know, the dollars that these publics are spending to acquire dollars. This is 1.3 billion. That's 3.6 billion, I think, is the number in bottom line revenue. And so like acquiring real estate, acquiring profitability, and we're not talking about, yeah, it's 54 stores in Europe. Like that is a power play. That's not, oh, let's buy like 2 or 3 failing stores and see if we can turn them around.
Heavy
right?
investment.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at dealership groups, especially the larger dealership groups, buying profitability, buying success. And so I would say like if you're looking to sell right now, getting your stuff in order is the first order.
Yeah,
it's
or
not
you're
like
gonna
I'm looking to sell and
significantly
maybe I'll get a little couple bucks because I'm not doing well, right? That's not going to be the people that these are after.
That's gonna, without a doubt. You know, also I think just when you watch the publics buy and sell, I think the sell side is still super important to the whole overall temperature of the market, because there's a lot of activity. We were talking about that last week, buy sell activity. And that's the cool thing about this industry. It's like it's this constant flow of like, this suits my strategy now, that doesn't. I mean, when you're selling a Subaru store, you have a strategy.
You have a strategy. Well, and because OEMs require certain volume metrics on how many stores you have in a certain market area, there's always going to be that like buy and sell transaction to make sure that you're balancing what the OEM requires or allows in an area. So, the market, like I've been saying, the market's going to be hot this year. It's going to continue to be hot. So watch out for more of this news.
I even think about that's a very, unless you're in the business and in it, you don't understand that OEMs do that.
Yep.
And that is one of the built-in protections.
It is for
about
the consumer,
about competition, right? Even Ford or Subaru, they're like, no. We want to make sure there are a number of people that keep everybody honest.
Yep.
Right. We're not going to like top down manage it. And I think in large part, consumers don't understand what a benefit that is. And it's a safeguard built into the industry in a way that,
that's
they
a
think
really interesting. It's like, you're not going to have 10 Subaru dealerships in New York and just like completely,
because even Subaru is like, because Subaru is like, it's not good.
Yep.
Like, we want to keep the fire going so that you have someone to be on your heels, because that's how we all get better.
Man,
speaking of getting better, hit the button. Yes, Nathan, nailing the button. He sensed it coming. I saw him start to move after a rocky 2024. The Volkswagen ID.4 is making a triumphant comeback following production halts due to a recall. Sales of the electric SUV are now skyrocketing, making it now the 3rd best selling EV in the US last month.
Just blew my mind.
I certainly wouldn't have picked that if you asked me. VW sold 4,979 ID.4s in January, making a 653% increase from the previous year. The ID.4 now ranks number 3, trailing only the Tesla Model Y and Model 3. Wow, it is the highest, I what do
Like
I don't want to say traditional. I don't like
legacy.
that. Legacy OEM. Wow. Top 5 best-selling Model Y, Model 3, VW ID4, Cybertruck, and the Honda Prologue.
Who knew?
Brian Benstock's out there on the hunt. Over 102,000 EVs were sold in the U.S. in January, up 30% year over year. And VW right now offering aggressive discounts on 2024 models. Leases as low as not $189 per month.
Look, the leasing game and VW's always been, I mean, you go back to like the classic sign and drives, and they've always been on top of that. And to be able to get this ID4 in that, it's a beautiful looking car.
It is.
From what I've heard. I haven't driven it. We probably should at this point, like knowing what we know now, but it's a beautiful car. It's it's well priced for the market. You can get a 2024, the remaining ones out there for under $200 a month. I mean, that's a strong reason why it's now number 3 in the market, kind of out of nowhere. We've been talking a lot about Kia and Hyundai. Obviously, Chevy, GM
German
have
EV,
been on it. Yeah,
right? German
EV in the US.
It kind of makes sense. Somebody mentioned, so you know this. I'm on like the final lap of my EV hunt. It's been very public on my LinkedIn, and we're gonna land. We're gonna do the whole thing, the reveal, and all that. Somebody was like, I would go with German EVs in one of the comments on one of the posts, and I was like, German EVs. Really? I was like, there's a part of me that was just like, I don't know, like the old Volkswagen stigma, like there's probably going to be problems. But then I thought about it, I was like, yeah, you think you would trust the Germans to engineer a good EV?
You would think.
And this story came out of nowhere today, and I was like, apparently they have.
Well,
I mean, the Mercedes and all that, like I understand that part of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look at like what, like European companies have been doing EVs.
You're right.
With F1 cars basically for a very long time. So like they're manufacturing toward that. They're trended toward that. So, hey, ID4
$189 a month. What I'm looking at is more than $189 a month. But the ID4 is not going to be able to fit all the things I need to fit.
Oh, little hints, hints.
All right, moving on. Speaking of little hints, not so subtle. We were like, should we include this in today? Is this too spicy for this show?
I don't even know. Like, can everyone just read the show notes and we'll just keep moving?
We've never said some of these words ever on this show, but we're going to say them now. I wouldn't say they're for sensitive. Like, I don't think there are many children listening to this.
Yeah.
But if so, it's just a bit of an anatomical reference.
So Tesla showrooms across the U.S. are becoming flashpoints for protests as demonstrators rally against Elon Musk's actions. The hashtag Tesla Takedown movement, they have a whole website. Whoever had the time to put that together, kudos to them, has gained traction with over 65 events scheduled across the U.S. through March. Protesters in New York's meatpacking districts hurled insults at passing Teslas, calling them uncool and major losers and swastikars. And
what are they yelling?
They were chanting mini penis, I believe, or something.
Is it mini?
That.
We didn't put it in the show notes.
We didn't put it in the show notes.
Micro
penis. That's right.
At the Cybertruck driver, who happened to be a woman.
Naturally,
they're just yelling things at this point.
They're just yelling stuff at this point. Demonstrations started in states none other than the highest EV populations and most populated
Alabama
Tesla places. No, Maine, Massachusetts, New York, California, and Colorado. There's no like centralized leader of this, like a person. It's more like a persona. They're trying to take down Elon and take down Tesla and all this stuff. Now the stock has seen a downturn over the last few days.
How could it not?
But between some of the politicalized news out there, but also some of the stuff around like their self-driving tests in Chinese markets that haven't gone as well as maybe expected. So there's a lot going on there, but this is kind of an interesting one.
All right. Like you said, it's not a centralized movement. It's kind of one of the only things I think people feel like they can do in an environment where, frankly, Elon is ripping through the government and looking for efficiency like he has in all of his companies. Like I have his book back there on the shelf. I read it last year. I was like, let me try to understand this enigma of a man. And the ferocity and focused intensity that he goes after operational efficiency.
Yeah. You look at what he did at X.
It's I can say it probably seems political if you're always positioning it that way. But I think if you looked in any household budget in any household fashion, you said, hey, Wouldn't you love to stop wasting money so you had more of it to spend on what you really want to spend on? Everyone would say yes,
Yeah.
like to a person. And so then obviously the swatch, I still don't understand. I mean, I understand like the gesture. It's a mess. Here's an interesting part of culture and car culture is that, so we were talking about this morning. The people who are now throwing him under the bus are the very people who funded his rise because
Absolutely.
of what he believed in. He was the first one to step out and really make waves in the EV movement.
EV movement,
right?
exactly.
Like literally the whole EV movement is standing on his shoulders. Like the ID4 doesn't exist unless Elon did what he did,
No,
which includes
absolutely.
the way he operates, which includes his commitment to initially, like it was a big environmental push. Like we need to move electric because we need, and then you look at like the polarization that's happened now, like a drivetrain has become a political thing. But typically in this situation, you would have the conservative side step up and support him. But
Right.
because it's not a traditional auto OEM, there's a big contingent of the country that like, usually I would say something.
It's so interesting.
But
and again, this, like, we always try and ask the question, especially on these, like when we talk about our third story of the day, like, what does this mean? Like, if you are in a showroom today, this is the narrative around, it's not because Tesla is synonymous to EV. This is actually the narrative around EV. So if Elon equals Tesla equals EV, this is the narrative that your salespeople, that the people on the front lines, that your managers, if you're a manager, if you're a salesperson, you're going to deal with, like, how do I deal with that with a consumer looking at an EV in my showroom today in comparison to the cultural news around what the
Tesla
figurehead
EV,
is on an EV.
That's a good point. I didn't even think of the potential political implications on a drivetrain.
Yeah. Like, you know, Elon is Volkswagen ID4, even though
is that one of
like,
those
it's
EVs?
not perfect of an alignment.
I don't know. Well, cue the music. Let's get out of the show. We have a lot of work to do. We've probably given you enough. We've said words we haven't said, talked about things we haven't said. Look, we hope whatever you do today, you understand it is fully within your power to get out there, serve some people, make a difference. We got your back.
Keep